This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of DocNJock. I am the Doc, John Macron. Joining me, as always, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Always look forward to another broadcast. Man, when the weather turns good, feeling good, have an opportunity this week to check out the Lions. We have to recap the Red Wings and all things going on in the world of Detroit sports. What's up, cuz? What's happening, my friend?
Are you sitting outside, patio side, with a little drink in your hand? You got a whiskey going down or what? Where are you at? What's going on with you? I know you love the sunny days.
Yeah, man, your timing was absolutely perfect for this recording. I was sitting at the office, and I'm like, you know what? The sun's out. Got to get the guns out. Let me see if I can get home just in time before the recording, hit the Wi-Fi, and see if I can make it home. So the second you said you're setting up, I'm like, I was like 3 minutes away from the house. But you took like a 10-minute setup, and I was like, wait a minute, this guy's either got the internet working going on or something's going on. So I'm literally in my driveway enjoying the sun. The kids are outside playing, and I just pulled up to the lovely home looking at the flowers and the decor, trying to calculate how many Amazon boxes the wife is going to have delivered to the house, because she figured out, hell, the more successful my husband is, the more it directly correlates to how many Amazon purchases she makes. And I can't keep up, bro. You're like, damn, Jock, why you got so many jobs? Because my wife is addicted to Amazon, and Amazon ain't living up to the deal anymore. They used to be the top option. Now the 2-day Prime delivery is taking 3 days, and it's not good. It's not fun. When I buy something, I want it there in 2 days. That's the purpose. That's the reason why you have the Amazon Prime. You pay the $10 a month to get my shit in 2 days. And I don't know what it is. Got to hit up your mom and be like, look, figure out this mail situation. I'm getting tired of this shit. I am tired of this shit. USPCS, I don't care. Figure out your deficits and get my shit in my home. I'm in.
UPS, USPS, FedEx, whatever. Figure it out. Get my stuff. That's what you're saying. I'll be honest with you.
Shit together.
It took me 10 minutes to set up because I had to go take a poop. So I got home from work and I had to take a shit. I had to do normally to lift the curtain for everybody. Normally before we record, I usually poop. So this was no different. I kind of held it for the last 4 hours at work and came rushing in the door, and I just almost messed on myself. So it was good.
Oh, man. So it's all good, man. What's been going on in the world of Detroit sports? I know we've been talking about the Lions, and now it's OTAs. Man, some tough news already. First day in, defensive tackle Joel Heath. Freak accident for the former Spartan, ex-Bronco. He is doing a drill, and boom, busts out his ACL. He's one of the rare people that when he signed with the Lions, I sent him a direct message on Twitter. I said, hey, go green. Congrats on being part of the Lions organization. I look forward to talking to you maybe one day. And he's the only person that's ever responded from the Lions back to me. He was like, thanks, man, go white. And I had sent him a message and said, man, I'm sorry about the injury. And these things happen in football, but it's OTAs. Right now it's kind of walkthroughs, kind of seeing the numbers and kind of getting situated. It's real weird, man. You basically don't get a break from football. And you go from the draft to the schedule to free agency to everything going on. Is just so much in that schedule. Now they're already at OTAs. Between you and I, personally, I was with the players that had said, look, we can train in the offseason. We don't need anything going on in the offseason. Let's take a break in January and let's reconvene in August. But you saw what happened with the Broncos. I believe one of their big-time players, I believe, is Jawan James. He fucked up his knee really bad, and he had a $10 million contract. So you know what the NFL policy was, and they clearly stated, if you work out away from the facility and you get hurt, the boss is not paying you. So I believe it's Jawan James got it. He hurt his knee, busted out his ACL, and they just cut him. They said, boom, he's going to probably file an appeal, and it's ruthless. So you know what that did? Boom, 90% attendance for the Lions. About 78 to 80 players of the 90 have showed up to OTAs because they don't want to affect their money, their workout bonuses, and it's an easy way to work out with the crew. So I get it. Me personally, I would love it. I loved last offseason, man. There was nothing. You just, you get a little bit of a break from end of May till August. But now there's OTAs for 2 weeks. Then I'm going to be out for 3 days for mini camp. So it's a good time right now to look at the Lions. And I think what we are all going to be looking at, and I'm curious to get your thoughts, this offensive line potentially starting to get some real big hype. When you saw the photos of OTAs, the first thing people were looking at was, wow, Jared Goff under center, left tackle, Taylor Decker, you got your left guard of the future, Jonah Jackson, center of the future, Frank Ragnow, and Halapulivati Vaitai, he's the big question mark, and then you saw Penei Sewell, and you go, damn, could this, for one time, could this be a situation in which the Lions have actually put together a line that could be Dallas-esque? Could they have done it? Now, of course, you and I, maybe we taper our expectations because we're always feeling like the Lions are going to disappoint us, like at Christmas when you want something cool, you end up with a dirty-ass sock. But I am liking this line if they stay healthy. I don't think it's all hype. I think there is a realistic chance to hope that this offensive line could actually do something and maybe even make Jared Goff and DeAndre Swift better players. Am I right? Am I too hopeful? Am I too close to this? Or are you looking at it and going, damn, they identified a strength, and now they added to it by getting Penei Sewell?
Yeah, I think this is one of those times where you look at what the Lions have done, and it's all thumbs up all the way across the board. Last year, they had according to Pro Football Focus, so take it for what it's worth. I don't know if you're a fan of Pro Football Focus or not, but the Lions had the 13th ranked offensive line. Now, you add in arguably the absolute best player in this draft, the one guy that everybody said was a hands-down starter from day one. You add him to the right side to anchor that down with a center who was the second-rated center in all of football last year with Frank Ragnow, and one of the highest-rated left tackles in Taylor Decker. I think you got the culmination here of a really good offensive line, and I think there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve here. I mean, you do have a rookie, and look, we both believe that he should be starting day one, but I'm assuming that there's going to be a little bit of a curve here, but don't be surprised if by the end of the year, the Detroit Lions have a top 5 offensive line. I think it's going to be that good. The biggest question mark is Vaitai. Like, you don't know what he's going to be. He was clearly outmatched playing right tackle. Clearly. He does much better sliding in and playing guard, but even if he doesn't work out, right, I think you've got so much depth at the offensive line position, you can rotate a couple of guys in and plug in somebody to play guard for you. So I think the way that this offensive line has been constructed, I think it's going to blow a lot of people away. Now, look, that being said, I don't think this Detroit Lions team is going to be very good next year. I just think the offensive line has potential to be one of the best in the league. And with that being said, I think that does help trickle over into your quarterback with Jared Goff, and I think that does help trickle over into your run game with DeAndre Swift and company. So I think the way that this has been put together, you've got an absolute beast on both sides with Decker and Penei Sewell. And then plugging up the middle, Frank Ragnow is one of the smartest in the game. On top of that, he's pretty damn good at his job. It's going to be those two guard positions that we've got a little bit of a question mark on, and honestly, the one on the right side is probably the bigger question mark. I feel like Penei Sewell is going to have to do a lot of lifting for that right side. But all that being said, I think he's the perfect complement to Vaitai. Vaitai is a guy who I don't think either one of us are completely sold on, and you add in a guy who could be and should be starting at the left side for just about any team in the league, but he's going to be anchoring your right side. I think he's well equipped for this. I think he's up to the task, and I think this offensive line is going to look really, really special next year. I don't think it necessarily correlates to wins, but I think it's going to look special.
Excuse me, have you checked out any of the off-season rankings? I mean, you got some nasty rankings going on with Pro Football Focus, leaving no Lion wide receiver in the top 32. CBS Sports they ranked the Lions offense led by Jared Goff as the worst rated in the National Football League. I thought that's a little bit harsh.
Look, me and B are going to talk about that. I found that article and I read through it. Me and B are going to talk about that on the practice squad.
Okay, very much so, because of the fact that it's just, you look at it and you say, are they doing it for clicks? And I'm definitely aware of that. Are they doing it for attention? Is it valid? Is it realistic? Because in my mind, you can't look at the Lions with Swift, with TJ Hawkinson and Jared Goff and just put them the worst, in my opinion. So I look at it and I say, what's driving it? Probably the defense, probably the notion of people on the outside not really paying as close attention. Yeah, it's not going to be good, but also the National Football League is kind of made for parity. So, yeah, you're going to get some wins over some teams, 5-6 wins. I don't think they're the worst. I do think that, Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell deserve to be ranked in the top 32 of tackles. So I look at the rankings and I chuckle because I think people do them. And sometimes when you don't have someone on the ground in the city, you just kind of look at narratives. And the narrative for Detroit, and that's the scary part too, because I did the research and I looked because I said, okay, what's the job of the offensive line? It's to check the quarterback, not get him sacked, and to open up holes for the running backs. So potentially, obviously Vaitai was hurt. The line in 2020 still basically got Stafford running around all the time, and you still didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher. And you look at it from the perspective of how many sacks has this line given up the past 5 years? Over 200, meaning that every single season, 40 or more sacks on average the last 5 years. And that's a number that's far too high. So what's driving that? Yeah, the defensive linemen in the NFC North are ferocious, but it's not right for an offensive line to give up that number of sacks. And because this is how it directly correlates to Jared Goff. If Jared Goff doesn't have a clean pocket, that's why definitely analysts are saying, dude, he's not going to be scrambling. He's not going to be this guy that's going to run for 30 yards and get you a bunch of extra yards. He needs a clean pocket. He needs it good, much better than Matthew Stafford, who, if you paid attention, could scramble and make that extra maybe zinger throw there that really wowed the crowd. So they're trying to build for Jared Goff, but in the NFL, you don't get 10 seconds to throw. You get 3 seconds, boom, make a decision, and you got to make it happen. So this offensive line has to step up. Otherwise, it could collapse the offense and actually make the CBS article come true.
Yeah, I see. With the CBS article specifically, I think this is – I don't think it's necessarily so much for clicks. I think they really do devalue what Jared Goff brings to the team. And
a lot of people are.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I don't think the wide receiving core helps out a ton, right? I think the wide receiving core could be last in the league. It really is that bad. TJ Hawkinson, if you want to count TJ Hawkinson as a pass catcher, right? Not just specifically a tight end, but as a pass catcher, he's your best weapon that can stretch the field for you. Okay? So with all that being said, it doesn't give you a whole ton of confidence that your wideouts are going to contribute a whole lot. But I think Jared Goff is being severely undervalued. I think he's going to be an okay quarterback. I don't think he's going to be as good as Matt Stafford, but I think this offensive line is going to be better than anything they had last year. And I think the run game specifically is going to take monumental steps forward. I think it's going to be much better. I think DeAndre Swift gets another year. I think you've got a play caller in Anthony Lynn who likes to run the ball and knows how to run the ball and is going to put the offensive lineman in position to basically maul who's ever in front of them. So I think you've got a team here that is being severely undervalued. Now, that being said, in relation to the CBS article, I thought that they probably should have been ranked somewhere between 25 and 27. I don't think that they're great by any measures, and a lot of that has to do with who's playing on the outside as far as your wide receivers go. And a lot of that does have to do with Jared Goff being the quarterback. I don't think he's as bad as everybody is portraying him to be, but that being said, I don't think he's any great shakes as a quarterback. So I get it, but I think there's a lot of people who are really not looking at what this team has as far as up the middle. And I think this team is really, really discounting anything Jared Goff could possibly bring to this team that would be good. And I think you're going to see a different offense than you've seen last year. I mean, you almost have to. Jared Goff as a quarterback does a much better job with dinking and dunking, throwing underneath. He's more accurate with short passes. He doesn't do a great job stretching the field and throwing it long. Guess what the wide receivers don't do a great job of? Stretching the field, throwing long. But guess what you do have? You got a guy who should be a Pro Bowl tight end in TJ Hawkinson. You bring in Fells, who is another nice complementary piece. And look, he was a former Lion, and he did a lot of really nice things here. When they let him go, and they didn't end up extending his contract, I was kind of like, that's an interesting move, because I always thought he was a great red zone option. He was a great red zone target. He has good hands. And then you look at the running game, and you look at the complementary pieces that you have, and you look at who your starter is going to be. And these guys all do a really good job catching the ball out of the backfield. So I think that screams that it's going to be a West Coast offense that is going to play underneath. So, look, expect a lot of shifting, expect a lot of movement to open up some passing lanes, and basically the ball is just going to be coming out of the backfield for probably 65% of the plays. But I don't think they're going to be able to take the top off the defense all that much, and maybe that's where some of the criticism comes from. I'm not 100% sure. I do just feel like they are completely devaluing this offense right now, and I don't necessarily understand why. It just doesn't click for me.
Yeah, over the next month, what are you going to be paying attention to? Is it the safety in the secondary? Is it Jeff Okudah? Is it just the rookies? What over the next 3 weeks are you looking for? Because I think a lot of people are paying attention to Dan Campbell, what he's going to say in the media press conferences, what type of things the coaches are going to do, how the 3-4 potentially could shape the Lions defense. I think there's a lot to pay attention to. So I'm just curious, what's the one or two biggest things that's got you interested over the next 4 to 6 weeks?
I mean, how bad was that defense last year? It was horrible. It was horrible. What could make that better? Could you imagine adding in a guy who was a 3rd overall pick, and he comes out and he plays like he deserved to be the 3rd overall pick? Like that defense would look exceptionally better. At least that secondary would look light years better. So I'm going to be paying attention to Jeff Okudah if he can come back, if he's healthy. He had that core surgery. So is he in shape? Does he look like he's got some of his confidence back? Because I really do believe for him it was more of a mental issue. It was more having your head coach not believe in you and then not put you in positions to actually play your best, and then trying to do all of that while you have a sports hernia. Good luck with all of that. On top of that, I'm going to be interested to see how this 3-4 shakes out, right? Like, who's going to be the ends? Who's going to be your outside linebackers that are going to put pressure on quarterbacks? You know, we talk a lot about Trey Flowers and Trey Flowers' sack numbers and how he's never really been able to eclipse what he did the year before he came to Detroit, and how he probably won't ever be able to do that. And that's mostly because he's not a guy who hones in on the quarterback. He's more of a guy who might be better suited to be a defensive end in a 3-4, just kind of there clogging things up, blocking and trying to collapse a pocket, and not really being the guy who's going after and trying to be a heat-seeking missile to nail the quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see how he develops in this defense, if he develops in this defense, and kind of where they position some of these guys, because this is a bit of a revamp here, right? Forever and a day, the Lions have ran this 4-3, even when you had Matt Patricia here, and he was like, oh, we're going to be multiple. We're going to do a lot of different things. For the most part, they ran a 4-3, and sometimes they would line 5 guys up on the line. It was very rare that they would run a straight 3-4. So it'll be interesting to see how this kind of plays out and what ends up happening, and how the players in the defensive front get utilized and who's going to be in what position. But those are the things that I'll be watching most. The offense isn't necessarily a concern for me. I don't think it's going to be great. I don't. But I don't think it's going to be the thing that's going to kill this team. I think the defense has a ton of work to do, and I think some of the guys on the defense have a lot to prove and a lot to show. Jeff Okudah being one, Trey Flowers being another, and I think that's kind of where I sit right now as we kind of make our way through OTAs. What has your gander up? What are you watching for?
Yeah, I'll be there when this drops. When you guys download this podcast, I'll be at Allen Park They finally opened it up to the top 15 media members, so that puts me at 14 or 15 on the ranking. So that's, yeah, I love it. To give you guys a little sense, I get the apology. Sorry, John, the NFL has these regulations, and, we got to keep it to the 3 people that we hire, and then our 3 partners, and then our 3 radio partners, and then the 10 media that like to, give us everything that we need, and then you. And when that opportunity takes place, we'll let you in. I'm like, thanks, man, appreciate it. So, and then here's the rub: if the weather's bad, I'm not allowed inside the building because it's only top 10 only, top tier, And so I love to joke with that, meaning that. Okay,
I love how Lions PR staff just handles.
No. This is NFL per se. But, whatever. It makes for a good joke. It makes for extra motivation for me. Oh, we believe the league is really going to open it up for you. We believe it's going to open up for you. Look, man, thank you. It's not a big deal. You saved me the 35-minute drive and the headache on 94, maybe potentially getting my window blown out. So I'll be happy.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
I'll tease that for next time because we'll see how this plays out. Still getting over.
Is the car in the shop?
Yes, of course. The car's in the shop, all taken care of, fully covered. I'm okay. I'm still podcasting, still working. I came home and still did an article after that. So nothing's going to deter me. So follow at Detroit Podcast, and I'll share the journey. If it rains and I'm there, I'm not getting let in. Maybe I'll just press my face into the glass and be like, let me in. I'm okay.
I can see you. I see what you're doing.
It's not a secret. I know you're in there. Oh man, it's all fun being a media member like we are. All right. Now, before we talk about the happenings at your favorite college university, I have to recap the Red Wings situation because of the fact that we now got to look at some roster decisions, some big roster decisions. And is the Red Wings general manager, Steve Yzerman, going to make blockbuster moves? Because he's tinkered. He's obviously brought in Vrana. He let go of Anthony Mantha. I think everybody loves that because Vrana put the puck in the net at a very high clip. It was very impressive. And everyone's like, great, if this is what we can get from a blockbuster trade, could potentially Steve Yzerman make a big trade. And so the player that's in everybody's crosshairs that we are all wondering about, and I want to get your sense of it because I know you're in tune and you're paying attention and your opinion is as valid as anybody else's. Is it too soon to give up on Dylan Larkin because of the fact that this is the captain, this is somebody that has been a homegrown guy, a hometown favorite, a player that has potential? But I think Steve Yzerman made a critical error when he came out publicly and said, I don't care, I don't expect Larkin to lead the league in scoring. I want him to be a strong two-way player, which harkens back to the message that he got from Scotty Bowman when he came in. But Steve Yzerman flashed, some brilliance, 50-goal seasons in a different time. But I think that, yes, defense is important. Yes, defensive responsibility is super important. But racking up points is what gets the W's. And if you can up Dylan Larkin's productivity in terms of points, you would probably be massively helping the Red Wings much more than his defensive responsibility. And I think that for Dylan Larkin, I think he's kind of skated by, and now the pressure and the heat is starting to turn up a little bit. But I've been just vastly disappointed in Dylan Larkin. Do you sense any leadership from him? Do you sense that this is a guy that the locker room looks to and is like, let's go play? I mean, how many games did you watch where it was like, where's the effort? Where's the gumption? Where's the notion of the compete level? Far too many times the Wings came out flat, and after the Mantha trade, it picked up a little bit. But throughout the course of the season collectively, I didn't get a sense that Dylan Larkin is this massive leader, this massive player that deserves to wear the C and can carry this Red Wing team for the next 5 years. What is it that everyone's seeing? And is it something where, to the degree that maybe the door is now open for Dylan Larkin to be traded?
How many times has he scored 20 or more goals in a season? I'll answer it. 2. How many times has he had more than 60 points? I'll answer it. 2. Oh. This is kind of where I'm at with Dylan Larkin 6 seasons in. I don't think that his value is what either A, Red Wing fans, or B, the Red Wing organization really puts it at. I don't think he's that good of a player. I think on any quality NHL team, any team that's in the playoffs, this guy is probably your second line or your third line center. On a really good team, he's a third-line center all day. I don't think, as far as leadership goes, look, I'm not in the locker room. I can't speak to how he interacts with everybody. I can't speak to what he does on a day-in, day-out basis. What I can tell you is kind of what I see. And I can tell you from what I watch with games and from how he interacts with the media. I don't know if this guy gets it. And I say that because he's young, and there's a lot of growing up that probably still has to be done for him. But I don't know if he's necessarily a red ass or if he's a guy who really motivates guys. You don't always have to be a red ass. Eisner was not a red ass. Eisner was a guy who most of the time spoke very softly, but the guys knew. And like you could listen to the toughest dudes. If you consider Darren McCarty a tough son of a bitch, Darren McCarty would not fuck with Steve Yzerman. He's come out and said as much. He's like, you knew your role. And Steve told you to do something, you did it. I don't know if Dylan Larkin carries that. I mean, like, are you going to listen to that guy? Like, I'm not. Like, it just isn't, it doesn't work like that for me. On top of that, look, he's a young kid. I've got stories about things that I've done as a young kid, and I've got stories about things that maybe I probably shouldn't have done as a young kid. He's young, I get it. If you listen to any of the stories, if you're in the area, you'll hear tons of stories about how after games he'll go out, he'll drink till all hours of the night, and then he'll pick up a couple chicks and go back and do whatever he does. I personally know a couple of the chicks that he's done whatever with. So it's one of those things where I don't know if he's old enough to really carry the C. I don't know if he's mentally equipped enough to carry the C. I don't think so. On top of that, his production doesn't make me want to keep him around. He is a guy that if I could get a great trade, like something like I got for Mantha, I'm trading him away. He should be a trade chip. And like, if I'm Steve Yzerman, I'm coming out, I'm saying, we're not trading him. And behind the scenes, I'm kind of like, okay, cool. Well, what if we added Dylan Larkin to the mix? What are we going to get?
Real fast, hold your thought, because I want to take a quick detour here. Because of the fact that you opened the door slightly, I get a sense that maybe he's more sensitive and like cries afterwards. Did you ask? Like, he's like, baby, I love you. Let's get married. Like every single time he scores, he's like, baby, you know, he's texting nonstop, and I feel like he cries when they're like, dude, didn't you understand this was a one night stand? I'm not trying to marry you. You're Dylan Larkin. I only hooked up with you because you're Dylan Larkin. You know, I get a sense that he gets attached very quickly and is very sensitive.
He's kind of a douchebag, is the way I understand it.
Oh, allegedly, he potentially is a hit it and quit it kind of guy. Wow, I give him a little bit of a credit for that, because I definitely would picture him to be a crier. Be like, baby, I love you.
He's a guy who believes his own press clippings a little bit too much.
Allegedly. Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, very good. But in terms of his role on the ice, do you think potentially he could be somebody that could be a trade chip? Or
he should be.
He should be. Okay. Do you think he has clout because he's got friends across the league? Do you think that by any way, I'm hearing whispers, I think you have too, that Jack Eichel just is miserable in Buffalo? Who wouldn't be miserable in Buffalo? Chicken wings can only get you so far. You know, Buffalo's out in the middle of nowhere, and there's no action there. You can't get marketing dollars out there in Buffalo. There's no heat there. Do you think in any capacity, in any way, that a blockbuster move of that nature could be done? Because it might take trading some pieces, but would you give up a first? Would you give up a first and a second? Would you give up a player or two and a first and a second? Would you make a massive move if Jack Eichel is available? Is he worth it? I know that his situation in Buffalo has deteriorated to the point that it's just known league-wide that he wants out. Could he come to Detroit, or is it just something where you just got to trust the draft? The Wings damn near have so many picks that they have to just invest in the draft, and let's not get too greedy too fast.
For me, it's one of those things where Jack Eichel would be a nice piece, but Jack Eichel's not going to put you over the top right now. This team's not in position to win right now. So would he be great? Would he help put some butts in seats? Probably. I don't think Jack Eichel's really lived up to his billing. On top of that, he's dealing with a bit of an injury right now. So
yeah.
Depending on how he comes back from injury, he's having an issue with herniated discs in his neck. I mean, this is something that could really sideline him. So do you trade a healthy player who kind of underperforms that we're pretty much sick of for a guy who has not really lived up to the billing in Buffalo and is dealing with a bit of a neck injury? I don't know if that's the smartest move, and I don't know if I would do that. This is what I would tell you. At some point, this team is going to need a star player, okay, at some point, whether that star player comes through the draft or whether they trade for him. Now, Steve Yzerman keeps amassing all this draft capital, and that's fantastic. You can do some good things with a lot of draft capital, and I expect Steve Yzerman to do a lot of good things with some draft capital. Hockey's a weird sport where normally it takes players 2 or 3 years to really make an impact and to come up and be on your roster and show you some things. Dylan Larkin getting to start almost instantly out of the gate was a really weird situation. 1, for the Red Wings, and 2, for the sport of hockey. I mean, unless you're the guy who's going number 1 or sometimes number 2 in the draft, you're not coming in right away and starting. On top of that, it's very hard to find that so-called generational talent, that guy who's just kind of awe-inspiring, that Sidney Crosby, that Alex Ovechkin. It's difficult to find that guy. They don't just grow on trees. I mean, you can look at this past year's draft. Lafreniere didn't really have an incredible season. It wasn't like this crazy breakout season. There are other guys that had better seasons that were drafted much later than him that got a little bit of a nod and were able to come up partway through the season and really make an impact on their rosters, whereas Lafreniere out in New York had, in my estimation, had a pretty good year, and I was really surprised that they were even in contention all the way up to the final couple days of the season to make it to the playoffs. And Lafreniere kind of got it going as the season wore on, but it was not this dramatic impact that I think everybody thought it was going to be. So with draft capital, it's nice, but at some point you should probably turn some of that draft capital into a star player by trading for someone. And I don't know if Jack Eichel is that guy that I'm going to give up some of those draft picks for. I would probably wait, and I would kind of see what the market bears in another season or 2 and see what I could get. I mean, look, I've got no problems with trading Dylan Larkin away. I think it would be great. If you could somehow finagle an Anthony Mantha-like deal, or maybe get a little bit more than what you got for Anthony Mantha, I mean, sign me up.
Sign me up, baby. That's right, because of the fact that he's got to step up and he's got to show, like, look, it's not about press clippings and living the lifestyle of a pro hockey player. It's about becoming that two-way player, but also taking that next step forward. It's one thing to get to the league. It's the next to then produce in the league, but then it's another thing to take another step forward when you're already in the league and people know about you. And that will be the next step for Dylan Larkin is, can you take that next step up the rung to produce at a level that can get this team over the hump? I mean, 5-6 seasons not in the playoffs. It goes by fast, and it's been, a real dark dive for a franchise that was in the playoffs for damn near 25 straight years. So it's tough, but we're in the midst of a rebuild. It's going to be tough. Let's see how it shakes out with this year's draft and the extra capital, and what buttons does Steve Yzerman push as we progress forward. Now, coaching staff that's not pushing really any buttons, but still giving out the rewards and the checks, is your Michigan Wolverine football program, which at this point in time, when you surf the internet, wow, I thought it was bad when we talked about it last week. The skepticism, the deflated attitude, the kind of the blasé, like, I've never seen it to the point where you get a recruit and everyone's like, yeah, he's overrated. Yeah, he'll end up doing this. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Ohio State's going to kick our ass. Like, before, you would get all this hype and excitement, but right now the fan base is just kind of at a point of like, well, we know our role. We know what we got. We see the disappointment. Let's just roll with it. It's our team. Yay, we'll go back to the big house. We'll get our 8 wins. Yay. But let's hope that the loss to Ohio State's not as devastating as it could be. And then you hear the contract. Obviously Jim Harbaugh took a pay cut, which everybody's like, okay, whatever. But then to see across the wire that Josh Gattis got an extension, and you're like, okay, why? Because of the fact that he came in with this whole speed and space notion. He hasn't done really anything to warrant anybody going, yes, more of that. I mean, you've had quarterbacks come in and look good for a game, but not for an entire season. You've yet to establish a quarterback that has grabbed a hold of the offense and just taken it down the field nonstop. You have basically a program that's predicated on a strong running game. Then when your running back gets 2 25-yard runs consecutively and starts to look good, you start going away from the run and you don't go back to him in the second half. And you're like, okay, what are we really doing here with this offense? You have players that you don't feel like are reaching their max peak potential, and you feel like you have this kind of wishy-washy offense that doesn't have a true identity. But yet, let's give an extension to Josh Gattis, which I'm very proud, guys. You guys are actually staying calm and are questioning a lot of things with this program, and I'm very impressed with the level-headedness and the critique that you guys are now giving it. And I think you said the same thing, because when I messaged you, I said, did you see Josh Gattis got an extension? And you just sent me back the LOL emoji and said, what are we going to do? Yeah, that's just what it is.
It feels like it's a clown show, right? It feels like it's a circus in Michigan. Like the big house should be the big top. It's no longer where you play football. It's where Bozo shows up.
Well, look, I would say this. Is this the lowest you've kind of felt in the last decade? Was it? I feel like it all started, like the seed of destruction for Michigan started when Michigan State won the trouble with the snap game. It just seems like from that moment, it seemed like it put like this dagger in the balloon of Jim Harbaugh in that program, because everything was good. You're about to beat Michigan State. You're about to handle it. And then boom, you don't run the punt coverage in the most effective way. And Michigan State clowns you in your own house and shocks everybody. And I think from that moment, I think Jim Harbaugh has been shell-shocked and has just gone away from, I think, the coach that he could have been by being this ultra-conservative, really this type of head coach that just kind of is happy to win 9 games and is not willing to take maybe that extra couple steps to sacrifice to get to the undefeated seasons or to recruit triple as hard as everybody else. So, yeah, I just think that right now, I think the morale is at a really bad spot right now, where even alums that would churn out the rah-rah are sitting back going, yeah, it's not going to be that good. It's not good right now.
Look, I don't know. I think you could make the argument that his first game as head coach was kind of a disaster. That was that night game against, I think it was Utah on Fox Sports. I remember going ballistic when that game was unfolding. But look, it's been one of those things where I don't think whatever Jim Harbaugh's tried to do here at Michigan really hasn't taken a foothold. So now you bring in a guy like Josh Gattis, who came in talking all this and that about speed, space, such and such, yada, yada. And what you got on the field, it really didn't work. Like, the 2019 season was nothing to really brag about. And then you go to the 2020 season, and that just made you want to bury your head in the sand. If you were any type of a Michigan fan, you were super devastated, and it was absolutely horrible. So, all that being said, I don't understand the extension. It's not like Harbaugh is going to be here. Gattis isn't going to be here. This is just going to be one of those contracts that the university is going to have to pay off over time. What might end up happening is somebody might need to come and talk to Gattis about maybe being a head coach of a smaller university, or maybe there's another program out there. Maybe it might be one of those conversations that Jim has with him where he's like, hey, I'm going to probably get fired. You should probably start looking for employment somewhere, and then they'll open up his availability to go talk to other schools. To me, it was absolutely bozo land when you give Gattis a contract extension. I didn't get it.
Man, you can follow Adam to get his hot takes every single day at Adam R. STROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Make sure you download and listen to Adam's other podcast, The Practice Squad. He's got his stuff in order this week. It will come back. It will return. The boys will bring the noise and definitely talk about all great things and entertaining things too. Sometimes a little TMI, but in a very entertaining way. The network is so happy that you guys subscribed. The last week was amazing with downloads, listens, shares. All you got to do is go to your favorite place where you listen to podcasts and type in Detroit Sports Podcast, and you'll find our daily content. And like we've always said since 2013, often imitated, but never duplicated. Nobody else that's running a podcast network has DocNJock. Nobody else has this brain. Nobody else has this chemistry to be able to Bring the Noise covering Detroit sports. And I'm so thankful that you guys have stuck with us for over 400 episodes. You know that Thursday is the podcast drop. And I greatly appreciate your time and your listenership. We greatly appreciate it. Cuz that was fun, man. It flew by. I can't wait to record again next time.
Should be good next week. I'm looking forward to it, brother.